and I hope we can complete it. But it is if we do not complete it, then when we meet next time, I'll refresh you about where we left, and then we'll move on from there. I just want to take it on a very easy pace. I don't want to rush the things. Let it take as much time it takes, but we want to understand everything in full detail. So today we are starting off with the first chapter, which is the introduction. Naturally, we are following the fourth edition of Program Management Standard. Right. The chapters we have in the standard, there are 8 chapters. The first one, which we are starting today, is introduction. Then we have got a chapter on program management performance domains, which describes all those domains like strategic alignment with benefit management, stakeholder engagement, governance, and life cycle management. And then we take them on one by one in each chapter. After we have done away with all these 5 domains, the last 8th chapter is dedicated to the program activities. So introduction will actually brief you about the general introduction about all of the things, but especially detailed debate on program and program management and its relationship with portfolio and all that. That is the core discussion which we are going to undertake today. So this is what the 4th edition says about the first chapter. We first talk about the purpose of the standard. Then what is a program? We talk a little about the intricacies of a program, then how to initiate a program, then what are the relationships between amongst these portfolio program and project. I know you understand all this, but still, if there is a gap in the concepts, I would like to plug them properly, as if you don't confuse yourself later. Then in 1.3, we will talk about the program management itself. 1.4 will cover the relationship among the portfolio program and project management and their role in the overall organizational project management. This we will take on under 3 further subheadings. First would be the interaction amongst the portfolio program and project management, then the relationship between program and portfolio, and then the relationship between program and project. So these managements will compare amongst themselves. 1.5 will be relationship among the organizational strategy, program management, and the operation management. 1.6 is business value. 1.7 is the role of program management manager, which includes the program manager's competencies. 1.8 would be role of program sponsor, and 1.9 would be role of the program management office. This 1.8 and 1.9 has been added to the 4th edition. They were not originally there in the 3rd edition. And similarly, 1.2.1, initiation of programs, this is also an addition. So this is always a welcome addition, because latest research and discussions they undertake, they have come up with these topics, and this is good that we go into that much of detail. First, the purpose. Naturally, as we studied, we all studied for PMP, and we studied PMP. Okay, there was a purpose to that also. And naturally, you remember that there we said that our purpose is to understand the generally accepted, practices, good practices for the accomplishment of that project objective. So here also, it is almost the same thing. For program, we are now talking about those guidelines which apply to program management. So this standard provides us those guidelines on the principles of program management. So these are the generally accepted practices or definitions which are accepted worldwide. The team of program management managers who got together, and they were not only few from worldwide, practitioners in program management have participated in the development of this standard, and there were more than 5,000 people who participated in it actively. So they have formulated the generally accepted definitions of program and program management and the concepts important to their success. It expands and clarifies concepts presented in previous editions like first, second, and third edition. Naturally, this is the latest edition, so it includes everything. So we don't have to go back and go through first, second, or third edition. Everything we study here is going to be the latest, and therefore we can rely on it. This standard complements the PMBOK 6th edition, the Portfolio Management Standard 4th edition, OPM 1st edition, and PMI Lexicon, which is for the project management terms. So these are the things you must study beside the standard for program management. But this is, I'm only referring to PMI standard publications. In addition to that, if you have to study more, that could be from any other source. Generally, the term program and program management are used in different ways by different organizations. Let us see how different organizations consider it. And that is really amazing because people have a very, twisted way of understanding things. Anything which is big enough for a project, people start calling it a program, which is not the definition of program. And I hope we all understand the definition of a program, what it is, but still, globally, there is a misunderstanding about what the program is. So, generally, if I ask this from anyone, uh, uh, what is a program, then normally people say this is a collection of certain projects. Why do you collect certain projects? Because it was too complex. And so too big a work, so we just gathered them all together and we now call them programs. Actually, that is not what it really means. There has to be a relationship amongst all the projects which are working under the program, and therefore, just a mere collection of certain projects which have no relation, which have no common objective, is not a definition of a program. But some organizations and industries refer to ongoing or cyclic streams of operational or functional work as programs. Now, this is another way of looking at it. People are having a completely twisted definition of program. They call their operational work or functional work as program. Why do they do that? Because, as I said, programs are usually very lengthy entities. Programs go on for years. It's not like project that is going to finish after a year or two or three, but this may extend as far as 5 to 20 years or so. Therefore, because it exists for such a long time and it is almost a lifetime for a person, then people start considering it as a function or as an operation. They take it as a habit. They take it as a consistent practice that these things, this is part of the operation. Similarly, the other organizations, they refer to large projects as programs. Again, this is a big misconception, and to some extent, uh, this is the concept prevalent in UK. Although I know and I understand that they have a very clear understanding of what program is, but still they like to call large projects as programs and they call them mega projects. They do not differentiate between mega project and a program, but if you see it through, then you would understand that they have a reason for that. When a project becomes too large, or when it is a mega project, then we are not actually focusing on the deliverable. We automatically shift towards the ultimate benefits, whether we like it or we don't. That is probably the reason that in UK, they usually call it mega project, but that does not mean that do not use the term for program. They do use the term program, but they also use it interchangeably with mega projects. But anyways, for a layman, large project should not be called as a program because that is still a project, and project cannot be a program. These programs include large individual projects or a single large project that is broken into more easily managed subordinate projects. What we are talking about here is the large project. So, what do they call? Why do they call this a program? They think that because this is a very big project, it is difficult to handle, it is complex, and therefore it could be called a program. Or maybe they have a complex project which they have broken down into small projects, sub projects, and now they start calling it a program. That is also not right, because these efforts are more accurately characterized as projects, not programs. They remain within the discipline of project management as such and addressed by the PMBOK guide. So as far as it still remains a project, it does not come under the umbrella of a standard of program management, and it is to be governed by PMBOK guide. All the guideline provided for the project is applicable to any project, no matter how big, large, or complex it is. So a project is a project and will always be governed by a PMBOK guide. That is the concept we are carrying. But as I said earlier, uh, in UK they confuse it a bit. They start calling it a mega project, and mega project is, for them is like a program, right? And a clear distinction, if you want to create a clear distinction between the project and a program, I would say that project will always have a deliverable, which could be a product, service, or result. But a program does not have a deliverable. Program realizes benefits, not deliverables. So whatever deliverables are produced within a program are then processed into benefits, and ultimately when the benefits are realized, they they come out as a result of the program. So this is the clear distinction between a project or a program. If you are constructing a house, the house is a deliverable, so that is a project. Okay, how can we confuse it? Let us confuse it. Let us say I have a mega project of developing a whole city. Developing a whole city, such a huge and complex project, such a big thing that we have a tendency not to call it a project. We want to call it something bigger than a project. So we call it a large project, a mega project, and sometimes people start calling it a program. But until and unless there is a deliverable at the end, if the city is the deliverable, then it is still a project for all practical purposes, and it has to be governed by PMBOK guide. But if you can somehow relate it to the benefit and make that benefit a responsibility of that initiative, then it would become a program. We'll talk about how benefits can be defined, but for the time being, if deliverable is being produced, it is a project, and if benefits are being realized, it is a program. But I'll go back to what I talked about earlier in an earlier lecture, that every project also delivers, it also realizes some benefits. Do you remember that? Every project will also realize benefits. So, what do you remember? How can we relate that to this? Yes, Rayal?
Um, Please come again. I'm not so clear as to what you're asking.
Hmm. What I'm saying is, uh, do you understand the point that projects deliver product, service, or result? That's it. Projects
Yeah.
do not deliver the benefit. The benefit realization is not the responsibility of the project. Is it okay with you?
Yeah, to a certain extent, yes.
Okay, that certain extent I want to explore. Is there a benefit realization part of a project or not?
Well, we always think that at the end of the day, the benefit realized by handing over the project is maybe an improved process, more speedy service, or something that is happening.
Okay, so that means they
Once we transition
definitely,
off,
yes.
or we do have a turnkey project even,
Hmm.
otherwise, why would you do it? Like,
Okay, fine.
it's because projects are not cyclical everyday operations. You have a specific objective that if we upgrade to a certain version or
Hmm.
we install a certain thing, these are the benefits realized because there is always a business case attached, right?
Okay.
Otherwise, why would you do a project? So, yes, that benefit, if at the end of the upgrade you're still not able to do a certain task,
Hmm.
then why would you go ahead and do the upgrade unless it's just compliance? But
Okay.
even compliance comes out of a certain objective
Hmm.
that these are the new standards or rules or regulations.
Hmm.
So you need to keep those or comply with.
Right.
So I think those objectives and benefits are still there.
Okay. Julian, what is your opinion?
I'm with Faria. I guess my question here, which is a basic question, is what is your definition of a benefit?
Okay.
That's what I want to know because then
Okay.
that would make it clear for me.
Right. I'll get to that, but let me explain it with an example. For example, there is a project that you are responsible to construct a school, right? And you have been given specifications, drawings, and everything. You have all the requirements clear to you, and the ultimate result would be a building which will have all those specifications. And if those specifications are there, if they are, you could complete all those specifications, complete all those requirements, then the school is ready to be handed over to someone. Whomsoever is going to take it over, he will test it according to those requirements. This you are delivering a product, right? So you are either delivering a product or service or a result, but at the end of the project you are delivering this. But definitely, when this school, it was planned to construct this school, there must have been some business case, there must have been some reason, and there must have been some ultimate benefit which would be delivered to the society or that community, right? But the project manager only is made responsible for construction of the school and not to run the school, not to educate. But still, when he is constructing that school, he would keep those requirements in mind and plan accordingly as if it can accommodate the requisite number of students which had to be trained there. That's why that is the ultimate benefit which he's focusing on. He's planning accordingly, but he is constructing the school ultimately with those requirements. When he hands over the school, the product is handed over, but the benefit will be yielded when the school will be run, will be in operations, and ultimately students will keep start coming in, they start getting educated. So maybe the target for the benefit realization was to train 5,000 students, and that's the reason why the school was formed. So by the time 5,000 students have been trained from that school, that is the time when the benefit is considered to be realized. But that is not going to be happening during the life of the project. During the life cycle of the project, only the school will be constructed and it will be handed over. The job of the project manager will be finished. Project manager is no more responsible whether somebody starts running this school or not. But I am responsible for handing this school over to the requisite authorities or the operations or whomsoever is going to run the school. So now it becomes their responsibility to reap the benefit out of it. So the benefit realization may start, after the close of the project, maybe a couple of years down the road. Do you understand me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
sure.
I recall when I was doing my PMP, um, a project is not operational as we know,
Hmm.
but here we're saying that a program is operational.
Yeah, of course, of course. You see,
Okay.
a program is actually responsible to making those benefits, getting those benefits realized. So if you construct a school, the program will be responsible for running that school for that much time and reaping that benefit out of it, realizing that benefit out of it, and ultimately reaching out to some bigger objective, but some strategy it has to fulfill. So program has its own benefit realization, and every project within the program is contributing the deliverables which program unifies those deliverables and start yielding their benefits, and those benefits are then consolidated and ultimately the program benefit is yielded. That's exactly why programs are of such great length. 10 years, 20 years programs are just because they have to realize those benefits. So the responsibility of benefit realization falls into the program manager's responsibility. That's why these are lengthy in as compared to the projects. Okay, so we move forward. Because these efforts are more accurately characterized as projects, not programs, they remain within the discipline of project management, as we said. When the management of these efforts result in the delivery of an individual or collection of benefits, and effective control is not achievable by managing the individual projects or components as separate initiatives, the effort may be defined and managed as a program as described in this standard. So this standard is about gathering all that effort and converting it into the benefits and realizing those benefits. And those benefits have, as I said, have to be unified. Yeah, exactly. Julian is saying a group of related projects uh, managed in a coordinated way, exactly, to obtain benefits and control not available from managing them individually. That is the basic definition of a program. But now, with this concept, you probably would be able to justify this definition more appropriately. I hope so.
Okay.
Right. Now, some organizations define programs by the manner in which the projects are related. Now, this is another aspect which is confusing. Just putting a number of projects together does not make them a program. That is the point here which I want to make. This standard defines a program as a group of related projects, subprograms, and program activities. So all of them put together into the main program and managed in a coordinated way to obtain benefits not available from managing them individually. What does that mean? Every project may have its benefits. Every activity we do may have its benefits. If our program has got subprograms, they will have their benefits. But each one of them would be yielding individual benefits. But once they are coordinated by a program itself, then there would be an element of synergy. So the benefits yielded by the program are much larger than the sum of the benefits of all its individual components. So there is an element of synergy in a program. All projects within programs are related. That is why all projects have to be related within the program through a common goal. Purpose is the same. Main purpose is for the achievement or realization of that big benefit for which the strategy of the program has been defined, often of strategic importance to the sponsoring organization. So sponsoring organization did not ask you to construct a school, but they have asked you to raise the education level in the community up to a specific level. That is the target which has been given to you. Now, program manager has to strategize and think of way how he can do that. And to do that, he may give birth to more than one project. Maybe there is a awareness campaign, there is an advertising campaign, there is some other thing going on, and construction of a school, and lot many training of trainers and things like that. All of these projects are contributing to the common goal, and ultimately, at the end of the program, that specific objective which have been given to the program manager will be accomplished when the program is to be closed. If the projects have separate goals and not characterized by synergistic benefit delivery and are only related by common funding, technology, or stakeholders, then these efforts are better managed as a portfolio rather than a program. Now, this is the point. If you are just putting few projects together which have no common objective, which have no synergy, nothing, they all have their own objectives and they are yielding their own benefits which could not be related, which could not be combined, then why are we putting them together as a program? They cannot be put together like a program. Maybe you are doing a project, a number of projects for a specific client. The common factor is the specific client. Otherwise, those projects have no commonality amongst themselves. Such a thing is not called a program. It is called a portfolio or a sub-portfolio, whatever you want to call it. So this is going to be covered under the portfolio management rather than the program management. So unrelated projects cannot be part of a program. I hope I made my point.
Yes.
Okay. So if this basic principle is okay with you, then we move on. This standard describes how organizational strategy establishes the foundation for program and portfolio management, right? So organizational strategy will give certain targets to the program and certain targets to the portfolio. Portfolio is dealing with a completely different breed of things. Portfolio management is more concerned about the investment decision making for projects and programs. So it is looking at things in a very different angle, but naturally it is also aligned with the organizational strategy. But every program has been given a segment of organizational strategy to achieve, and that segment program has to strategize by itself. So program will develop its own strategy to achieve that organizational strategy segment, and ultimately he will program will come up with a number of projects, and their benefits will have to be realized and unified, and ultimately that program strategy organizational strategy segment would be achieved, the target would be achieved. It provides guidance on principles. This standard talks about the principles, practices, and the activities of the program management that are generally recognized to support good program management practices and that are applicable to most projects most of the time. The statement exactly is almost the same like project management. The terminology, general recognition, good practices, all of these terminologies we are aware of. But now we are talking about these terminologies from the perspective of a program. So program management practices, which are generally recognized, most of the people, most of the programs being run worldwide, globally, they adopt these good practices. These are good practices of program management. Remember, when we talk about a standard, we do not talk about best practices at all. We only talk about good practices. Why? Even it is applicable to PM project management, it clearly specified these are the good practices. So all what guideline is provided in PMBOK is good practices for project management. And here the standard for program management is giving you good program management practices. So what is the difference between good practices and best practices? Question for you.
I think it's
Uh,
the breadth of applicability, how inclusive it can, because best practices are far more expensive, time consuming, and
Mhm.
not applicable everywhere.
Okay.
I
Yes,
I
please.
believe. Yeah. Sorry. Is Fariel done?
No, no.
Yes.
Okay. So I believe good practices are more personally followed
Hmm.
by by a person, whereas best practices are more standardized and followed by the entire. For example, here would be by the entire PM,
Hmm. Or let
like
me
all the
define
PM.
it another way. As when you talk about individuals, they have skills and competencies. When we talk about organizations, they have maturity. As an individual, when you learn something or you gain some experience, you are actually adding to your competency. Whereas organizations, when they enhance and improve, they are getting mature. So to gain maturity, you must be following some best practices, meaning that you best practices simply mean that you are in competition with the whole wide world. Where do you stand in comparison with others? Because every organization wants to be the best. If you see that another organization is following certain best practices, you may like to copy them or create your own best practices, and basic mission is to beat them. It is a competition. But the good practices, again, are in the perspective of the organization, not the individual. Good practices are also in the perspective of the organization. So, good practices are those practices which will keep you up just above the water. They will not let you drown. If you drown, then you must be doing some bad practices. Basically, we do not understand normally that what is good and what is bad. When you do not have a differentiation between good and bad, then your practices would be a amalgamation of good and bad practices where you don't know when you are doing something wrong. Now, with these standards, what they do is number one, they are filtering out the general practices, the generally recognized practices which are being adopted by the whole wide community or globally. These are the generally recognized practices. But the question is, all these generally recognized practices are them are all of them good good practices as well? Maybe most of the people are adopting a bad practice, and just because many people are adopting that bad practice, so we should also do it? No. First, after we have recognized the commonality, we have generically selected certain practices, then these practices have to be sorted out whether they are good or bad. The bad practices have to be avoided, so therefore they are not part of a standard. Standard will always give you good practices to do that job. But once you know the difference between good and bad, that means your organization will not be attempting to do bad practices and would at least be following good practices. That means your organization is good enough. Now is the time when you feel that your organization has achieved a level of good practices. They know the difference between good and bad. That is the time when you want to excel, when you want to mature further and move towards your best practices. So you cannot directly jump from haphazard practices to best practices. You just say because IBM is very successful and they have these 5 best practices, so I should also adopt them and I will also be successful. No, sir. Basically, you don't know what good practices they have been following. You cannot jump from bad to best. You have to first understand what you are doing wrong and what you are doing right. And once organization wide this knowledge is common and you have adopted good practices, you are working according to some standard, that is where you talk about maturity. And maturity demands that you adopt certain best practices. Hope that becomes a bit clear.
I think it's very theoretical then, that what is good and what is best, because then is it the timeline or how long you've been following those good practices that now you've reached a maturity level and it's best practices?
No, please do not relate good practices with best practices because good practice decision is taken much earlier. Actually, there are two things which we normally see. One is through proper logic, it is proven that this is good, and the other is heuristics. There is a thumb rule that because my father has been doing this and my grandfather has been doing this, so without any reason, I should believe that this is how it should be done. This is not a good practice. This is a heuristic. This is a thumb rule. So thumb rules may be followed, but they must be tested whether they are good enough or not. All the thumb rules, all the heuristics will not be good. Some of them will be bad. So you have to separate good from bad and then adopt only the good things. Those which are logically
So
proven.
once we have separated good from bad,
Mhm.
there are certain industry-wide, there are certain good practices. So
Of course.
you've adopted them.
Mhm.
When do they become best practices then?
Yes, you will work upon them and then you will find the granularity of that good and how can you improve in which aspect, and that would take you on the journey to maturity. You would be moving on. One thing is you must not lie. Okay, that is a good practice. You must not lie. Then to what extent you should be truthful, that probably would come from best practices. How you excel in that area, the general knowledge about what is right and what is wrong is basically given by the standards. The standard, all the guideline which is provided in a standard, that is not a best practice. That is just how to keep you afloat, right? And then it is not mandatory as well. Whatever is given in the standard is not mandatory. It is optional. You have to pick and choose. Customization is your responsibility. You and your project team, you will decide which practices to adopt and which not to adopt. Sometimes it is not possible to adopt all the good practices because that is in the habit of the organization. There are certain things which are in the rules. So we may not adopt certain good practices advised by the standard, but ultimately we will improve. So until and unless we have left all the bad habits, we cannot expect to be rising in the maturity by following the best practices. You can't be following the best practices when you are not even good enough. Right? Have I confused you guys more?
Um,
Yes.
I think I sort of had it right, except I was referring to an individual rather than a company, maybe.
Hmm.
Um, I guess the one question I do have is there a repository somewhere of best practices
Hmm.
or something that's generally recognized,
Of course,
or
of course.
is it unique to each program and
No,
built? Mhm.
there is. Let's not talk about project management, and let's first talk about the maturity models. Maturity models do exist in all walks of life. You must have heard about CMMI, have you?
Yeah.
Capability Maturity Model Integrated. That is in the field of quality and process improvement. That is the most famous maturity model. But they also have a ISO standard. ISO standard is good practice. That is not best practice. Every organization, if certified as if ISO certified, that means that they adopt good practices in what they do. They are consistent in performing their good practices and their quality, whatever their quality is. But whatever quality they produce will remain consistent. If they want to improve, the continuous improvement is possible. So what they can do is they can improve their certain processes and then be consistent about them so they are a level above, and they keep trying that and they keep improving till the time they realize that they are good enough and they can start competing with others. So how do they compete with others? Then maturity model comes to their rescue. Maturity model measures various organizations on certain best practices which are standardized. Those standardized best practices are then you are tested according to them, and you are given a certain level of maturity. There are 1 to 5 levels. I'm talking about CMMI, not project management. So on 1 to 5, you may be assessed at level 1. Then you will be advised how to move to level 2, and after a couple of years you may try for that, and then ultimately you keep rising, and level 5 is the highest level. So that is as far as the quality and the operations are processes are concerned. In project management, PMI had come up with an organizational project management maturity model, which is a fantastic model, and it is even better than CMMI because PMI has realized that an organization which consistently brings change and improves must be practicing not only the project management but program management and portfolio management as well. So they test you on each of these aspects as an organization. For organizational project management, they test you for project management, program management, and portfolio management, and there are some certain capabilities and best practices already earmarked, and you are assessed according to that, and then you are given a score. This score is not in levels like CMMI because PMI has differentiated from there. The leveling maturity method is like a two-dimensional model, but PMI has got a three-dimensional model. Like, you have to prove your maturity in project management, in program management, in portfolio management, and in all the practices, you have to show that you have attained a certain level. So whatever score you get, you are then supposed to be increasing that score, and that score will tell you how mature you are in comparison with others. You can simply compare your score. Say you have got a score of 67, you would know that who is the world leader in that. Maybe there is one who have a score of 80. So you have 67, so your gap is 13. So you see which are the best practices I am lacking, and you try to attain those, and this way you keep rising. That improves, matures an organization that way. Okay, if that is understood, let me move on. uh, the next thing
So
is
even moving from 7 to 80, there are already certain established best practices.
yes, of course they are, But problem is, how would you know that you are following some standard and you are already adopting some good practices? As I said before, if you are not good enough, how can you be the best? So before you can
This
launch yourself,
not about
yes,
stages of it.
hmm
It's about having an established definition of it, that
that is there,
there are best practices
that is there,
and
that is
there
there.
are good practices.
Of
Okay.
course, of course.
So what makes a practice a best practice
hmm
and what makes a practice a good practice? That's what you need to differentiate.
Exactly.
So I need to know the differentiator between the two,
Okay. You see, as I
not
described,
the
when
process
yes.
of it.
Okay, let's take an example from the project. Um, a good practice is to develop a charter, right? So if everybody starts developing a charter, at least their chances of success are improved, right? But how to develop the most effective charter would be the granularity into it, and that would give rise to certain best practices. Whether you say, yes, we developed project charter, at least you have done the minimum, that you have started noting down or jotting down a document in which a proper authorization for the project is being given. But what all should be the ingredients, or what all should be included, what should be the best practices for developing a charter, that could be something which will further improve your maturity. So each and every aspect you have in good practice is further elaborated to that level of maturity.
That is fine, but we already know what the best practice would be, whether we achieve it or we don't.
How do you know that?
Creating a charter just for the heck of a charter
hmm
and having an effective, accurate, well organized, well defined, proper charter is best practice. But
It is
we
not the best
already
practice.
know whether we have that competency or we don't have that
It is not the
competency.
best practice.
It's already there.
No, no, no. It is not the best practice. It is not the best practice. This
So
is a
the
necessity.
question is,
It is a
what is
necessity.
the best practice?
Best practice would be beyond that. If you want to study the best practices, you must lay your hands on the organizational project management maturity model, or for that matter, CMMI. That would list down thousands of best practices. And those best practices, each best practice will have a capability associated with it and will have KPIs. So you have to achieve those KPIs, attain those capabilities, and only then you can claim to have matured to that level. So that is a very rigorous system of maturity. But here we are not making anything mandatory for you. We are just saying, okay, if you have a charter, that is good enough for you. But how effectively you create a charter, what kind of charter you create, that is completely left upon you. But you are still better than those who are not creating any such document. And anybody who is not creating those
But we
documents,
have
their chances of
clear
success.
guidelines as to what a charter includes. I just can't call anything a charter.
Mhm. Anything is a charter, even verbal statement is a charter. This is just an authorization. If somebody verbally gives you the job, announces that you are the project manager, this is the job you have to do, this is also a charter. But if it can be written down, it is, still better than that. If it can be written down in a proper format, still better than that. And in that way, you can keep improving it, and ultimately you can mature it. But the very first step is realizing that there has to be need for charter, and that is a good practice. Then you can enhance this into a best practice. And for that, naturally, people have done a lot of research and best practices have been identified, and you can relate them properly through the capability achievement and the KPIs to be achieved. I would strongly recommend that you go through some of the best practices in some proper maturity model. I am not relating it to the best practices which companies advertise that these are our best practices. Those are not the best practices. Best practices are to be globally renowned. So globally renowned best practices would only be found in a maturity model. And there are so many maturity models. I think last research I had seen that there were 40 different models only for project management. 40 different maturity models only for project management. Right. So, do we need to discuss it further?
No.
Okay. So, generally recognized, we have amply discussed it. Basically, what it means is that the knowledge and practices described are applicable to most programs most of the time, and there is a general consensus about their value and usefulness. You see, if you read this terminology carefully, you would know what I mean. General recognized, it says the knowledge and practice described are applicable to most programs most of the time, and there is a general consensus. People generally agree that yes, it is done that way, and this is useful. So, three things are here: principles of program management, that are the tenets that are held to be true and important for the effective management of programs. Then we have general recognition, which I have already described to you. And then is a good practice, which means there is general agreement that application of the principles, knowledge, and practices improves the management of programs and enhances the chances of program success, as measured by the extent and effectiveness of benefit delivery and realization. So these good practice, for that matter, I would say all the guideline provided in this standard is good practice. This is the combination of all the good practices, and that's why, and that is not, nothing is mandatory. Although they are good practices, but it is not expected that anyone can follow all of these good practices. So tailoring is in the hand of the person who is applying it. So as per your need, you apply it. But when you start applying it to that extent that you are religiously following, say, all the good practices, that will be the point when you will realize that you are maturing and you have to move further ahead. And that is where the door for best practices open for you. Okay. The standard for program management is also intended to provide a common understanding of the role of program manager in general, and especially when interacting with portfolio managers, project managers, program sponsors, steering committee, program and project management offices, program team members, program beneficiaries, and other stakeholders. So these all are the people with whom your program manager will have to interact. Generally, I will just generally describe this. Naturally, we understand that the portfolio manager is looking after all the projects and programs from the perspective of investment decision making. Some people think that portfolio manager is actually managing the projects and programs. That is absolutely wrong. I have already told you that even in program management, we do not interfere in the working of projects. Therefore, we just provide them guidance. Portfolio manager doesn't even have that capability that and doesn't have that time also that he can guide project and program managers. He only will have to be looking at the financial or the investment decision making, which project or which program is eating how much resources, which is fulfilling the organizational strategies well. So portfolio would be responsible for prioritizing these projects and programs, and for resource distribution according to that prioritization, and money is also a resource. And therefore, if your project or your program is not in the priority of the portfolio, your funding may be cut and your project or program may be, finished. It may be ended by the portfolio manager without even asking. Some people think that it depends upon the performance of the project or program that portfolio manager decides to, you know, kill the project or program, but that is not really true. Your project or program may be running smoothly, may be producing wonderful results, but the priorities of portfolio managers are very different. If he sees that there is an opportunity of starting a new program which can satisfy a much larger and much better strategy much faster, then probably he will like to channel all the funding towards that program. And therefore, he must have to cut corners and he needs to close down certain projects and programs to create funding or resources for that project, and therefore therefore, these projects will suffer, which are projects and programs may suffer, which are otherwise running very smooth. So this is the relationship with the portfolio manager, that you need to interact with the portfolio, need to get resources from the portfolio manager, and you are somehow in a way you are subordinated to him. But basically, you are basically subordinated by the organizational strategy. But the side of organizational strategy which portfolio manager is looking is investment or funding related. Organizational strategy is basically governed by the executive committee. So program sponsors and project sponsors, I mean, stand-alone projects, their sponsors, they all are directly answerable to the executive committee, not to the portfolio manager. But again, I would say it may differ slightly from organization to organization. But generally, the rule is that portfolio manager is not micromanaging the projects and programs in any case. It is not in his responsibility. Program sponsor is actually the boss of the program manager, and he gives you the orders. And then there is a program steering committee on top of the sponsor. He takes all the issues to the steering committee, and that steering committee, whatever they decide, that's what will happen for the program. Then you have got your own project managers within your program. Those naturally you are the sponsor for them, so you are making decisions for them, and therefore they are delivering the product, service, or result of their projects to you. So that is your relationship with them. If your organization has some PMO existing, PMOs could be 101 types of PMOs. There could be a project management office, there could be a program management office, there could be a portfolio management office, there could be a strategic PMO, there could be an enterprise level PMO. So there could be any way in which you can form a PMO. But here, when we talk about a program management office, then classically it means that for the management of the projects within the program, you need to have, because your program is too big, so you need to have a management office for managing the affairs of your own project. This is one way of looking at the PMO. The other way of looking at a PMO is that in the organization, at a centralized level, there is a PMO which is looking after all the projects and programs. So this is somehow very close to the portfolio, because portfolio also looks at all the projects and programs of the organization. Such a PMO would not be actually performing the duties of the portfolio, because portfolio has a higher level, executive level duty, and PMO has a supervisory level duty. PMO is only responsible for collecting all the data, presenting it to the management, and if management can somehow give it certain powers, that only that much powers he can exercise. So that is for the program and project management office. Then we have got program team members. Now program team members, we said there are activities within the program which have to be run, which are not the project activities, because project activities are being managed and handled by the project managers within the program. Now, though those people are doing their work, but whatever they are they are delivering to the program manager is then responsible for realizing the benefits, and therefore he needs to have his own team available for managing those benefit realizations. So program team members, they are directly under the program manager, and program manager must develop a detailed program management plan, including the human resource and resource management, all that relating only to his own team members. The detailed plans of the project human resource and others would be included in the project management plan. Then we have the program beneficiaries. Again, beneficiaries and stakeholders, they all can be covered under the stakeholders. So they could include stakeholder groups or executives or whatever. So these are the various people who will be interacting with the program manager. Our program manager will be interacting with them. So he needs to understand how they have to interact with each other, with whom he needs to interact and how. Another thing we need to understand here is that the code of ethic and professional conduct of PMI, which we studied in PMP, is applicable to program management as well. So we need not say much about it because you already know that the code of ethics and professional conduct of PMI specifies 4 obligations: responsibility, respect, fairness, and honesty that program managers should abide by in the conduct of their work. And this code of ethics and professional conduct requires that practitioners demonstrate a commitment to ethics and professional conduct. That is one thing. And then carries with it the obligation to comply with the laws, regulations, and organization and professional policies. I'm not going into the detail of each one of these responsibilities, these obligations, but every obligation has further two types of values in it. Number one, there are certain aspirational values and there are certain mandatory values. If you talk about responsibility, aspirationals are those things which must be done as a professional. They are good to be done. They are not optional. But mandatory things are definitely to be done. And if you do not practice them, then this is kind of criminal. So you can be held responsible for doing something wrong if you are not fulfilling the mandatory conditions. But for the aspirational values, you must try to achieve them, and if you can't, then you cannot be blamed for that. But if you have not fulfilled a mandatory requirement in responsibility, respect, fairness, or honesty, then you may be liable to some kind of legal action or whatever. So far, so good. Okay. Before I can start talking about the program, let's quickly scan through what is a project. You remember, project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. So the focus there was on product, service, or result, right? Although I said that when the business case for the project was made, there must have been some long-term advantage long-term benefit which has to be yielded out of it, but that is far into the future. Immediately, the project will deliver some product, service, or result, which will ultimately be consistently giving some benefit over time. So in designing the project, we may consider the benefit realization, but it is not the responsibility of the project manager to realize all the benefit. Yeah, it is possible that while the project is going on, some benefits start yielding. Some of them start yielding. So yes, until and unless the project is going on, those benefit realization within the project, which are happening within the project, are within the responsibility of the project manager. But as soon as the project finishes, the product is handed over. After that, it is someone else's responsibility. But someone will take care of those benefits. So I need not go into the detail of this project. Coming over to program, um, as Julian has given us a definition, it is almost the same. This is a group of related projects, sub-programs, and program activities. Probably the only addition here from your definition is you said related projects only, but here it shows all the components, not only the related projects, but it can have sub-programs within the program. It can have other program activities, which is also called other work. So in other ways, if I can say, these are the different components within a program: the projects, sub-programs, and program activities. All of these things together have to be there for for a program. So all of these things are managed in a coordinated way to obtain benefits not available from managing them individually, right? I think rest of the definition Julian had given is exactly the same. The only thing addition in it is sub-programs and program activities. These are also the components which are included in the program. Other work, as I said, which I mentioned here as program activities, it may include the operational work, ongoing operations which are outside of the scope of the individual project. Meaning what? This is not what is included in a program. If it is all the related projects, then uh, does program manager has nothing to do, because project managers are doing their projects. Program manager has nothing to do. Program manager will have to have his own team. He will have some program activities which will actually be working as a glue to join the results of all the projects together and processing it into benefits. So therefore, this is the other work, or this is the program activities. Please note that at times a large project can be split into multiple related projects, and then it is referred to as a program. I'll talk about it. How can we have a large project split down into programs? But generally speaking, if a large project is split down into projects, it still remains a project, a large project or a mega project. But if you want to convert into program, then you have to define its benefits, its strategy, and convert all that into that frame. If you can do that, then probably it can be called as a program. Benefit delivery, managing projects. I hope you can listen to me now. Yes, Rayal?
Yes.
Mhm.
I don't know why we lose
Yes,
voice.
now we can listen.
Yeah. I don't know what is the problem, probably in my net or so. That must be the problem. Okay. So benefit delivery, managing projects, subsidiary programs, and program activities. These are the three things. related projects, subsidiary programs, and the program activities. These are the components of the program. So managing them as a program enhances the delivery of benefits, which I have been emphasizing from very big. So if they are well coordinated by the program manager, the benefit delivery is assured by ensuring that the strategies and work plans of program components are responsively adapted to component outcomes. Each component, like the project, subsidiary programs, or the program activities, each component is producing something. Some outcome is coming, some deliverable is coming out of it. So those deliverables have to be, they have to be somehow, the benefits are to be shaven off them, and then they have to be processed. And that is the responsibility of program activities then. Are to changes in the direction or strategies of the sponsoring organization. So program is such a huge thing that if the strategy which organizational strategy it is following, somehow that changes and your direction is changed, then program will have to readjust the targets for the projects, and it can tell the projects to make those requisite changes. So this could be called as a program level change request. Programs are conducted primarily to deliver benefits to the sponsor organization or constituents of the sponsoring organization. So basically, you are more responsible for the delivery of the benefits. How benefits are delivered? Programs and projects deliver benefits to the organizations in so many ways. By enhancing their current capabilities, by facilitating business change, by creating and maintaining their assets, by generating business value, by offering new products and services to the market, or developing new capabilities for the organization to generate or preserve value. So basically, this initiative will add something to the organizational capability or will enhance the business value. So that business value or capability or that change which we want to bring is ultimately going to be the advantage the organization will get out of the programs. Such benefits are delivered to the sponsoring organization as outcome that provide utility to the organization and the program's intended beneficiaries or stakeholders. Programs deliver their intended benefits primarily through component projects and subsidiary programs that are pursued to produce outputs and outcomes. So they are pursued for the output and outcome, and those outputs and outcomes are then converted into the benefits, and those benefits are unified and delivered to the organization. Let me explain one more thing. We keep calling sub-programs. What are they? If your program size is too big and you think that they cannot be managed effectively by directly having projects under them, you may divide your program into sub-programs, and every sub-program may be given a portion of the program strategy to achieve. So sub-program managers could be sitting there and they could have each some of their own projects, and they would be yielding those benefits to the program, and program will ultimately be unifying them and converting them into the overall program benefit or meeting the organizational strategy. So these are the sub-programs. So we have projects under a program, we have sub-programs under a program, and in addition to those, we have to have our own program activities. The components of a program are related through their pursuit of complementary goals that each contribute to the delivery of benefits. So every component is putting in some contribution towards the overall program benefit by delivering whatever product or service or result they are delivering, they are contributing towards ultimately the bigger benefit which is to be realized. Now, component projects or programs that do not advance common or complementary goal, or that do not jointly contribute to the delivery of common benefit, or that are related only by common sources of support, technology, and stakeholders, are often better managed as portfolios rather than as programs. Just look at the statements once again. Number one, they do not advance common or complementary goals. They are not related. Or they do not jointly contribute towards the delivery of common benefit. Again, they are not related here. And if they are related, but in some other way, like they have the same client, they are from for the same technology or same stakeholders, are that is a classification, that is not a relation. So if it is a classification, it is better managed as a portfolio. So in all of these three conditions, this does not qualify to be called as a program. That may be called as a portfolio or a sub portfolio or whatever you want to call it. So the program elements are the program. They are the components, projects, subsidiary programs, and other program-related activities. And taking them one by one, components are the projects, subsidiary programs, and other related work. They are all these three things are jointly called components. And project, is a temporary endeavor, and these certain temporary endeavors are happening within the program. So these have been given certain responsibilities. Each project will be producing its own output. Projects are used to generate the output or outcome required by program within defined constraints such as budget, time, specification, scope, and quality. So every project has an objective to meet. Let me, differentiate between output and outcome. Can you help me on that? Output and outcome. Yes, Julian? How do you differentiate output and outcome?
Okay. Output could be something realized after you've done several inputs, whether an outcome is more of something that
Outcome is more?
it's more of something that comes out of the collection of the outputs. So as of the final unique product would be the outcome.
A unique product will be an outcome. Okay. I will go back to the definition that Suhail had given earlier. Yes, from projects, we do get the deliverables, which are the product, service, or result. Whatever the product, service, or result is coming out of a project is basically the output. But if you have any benefits coming out of the project during the life of the project or immediately after the project, these are the outcomes. Outcome is relating to the benefits. As I said before, it might be a possibility that while the project is going on, certain benefits start yielding, and those benefits which are coming out of the project till the project ends are the outcomes. So in a way we can say that programs have outcomes and projects have outputs. Generally speaking, projects have outputs, programs have outcomes, because output means deliverables, which are product, service, or result, and outcomes are the benefits. So outcome, there are those benefits which are coming out of project directly, and output are the deliverables. Ji Frayal, is it okay with you?
I thought outcomes have a value quotient, and
Mm-hmm.
outputs are just very numeric. It could be just A plus B results in C, and there
Mm-hmm.
is no value uh, quotient to it. That's what my differentiator is.
Well,
That's how I
I would
separate.
I would partially agree with you as far as the value is concerned, because outcome are, the benefit is always the value generation. But if you say output doesn't have a numeric, just to have a numeric value or something like that, that is not really true. Yes, I would say it has specifications, it has certain requirements met. So if you deliver that according to those specifications and those requirements, that is a deliverable, that is a product, service, or result. So if you mean that, that is okay. Outcome is more towards the benefit side. What are the advantages you are getting
Yeah,
out of it?
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's more like when you say one is tangible and one is a bit more
Yeah, yeah, of course.
intangible or
Outcomes are
subtle,
outcomes and
and
benefits.
output has a more mathematical
Mm,
or more quantitative ring to it
okay,
as
okay.
compared to outcomes, which is more qualitative or a blend of quantitative and qualitative. I
Mm.
don't know. That's what
No, no,
my mind tells me.
you are right. You are right. This is a very nice way of presenting it. Of course, this can be shown that way. You are right in that. So outcome, normally the benefits are difficult to measure, but the output is numerical in nature. By you can measure it by its height, width, and everything, color, all the functionality you can you can physically understand, and you can measure it. You do have metrics for everything. So yes.
Yeah. So that's how I qualified between the two.
Mhm.
That one is more subjective to interpretation,
Exactly.
and the
That is.
other is very specific.
Yeah.
For me, sometimes when I'm delivering,
Hmm.
I have a better handle when I have more specifics, the qualifiers. I have better critical success factors with
Hmm.
very, very well defined KPIs. I find myself more comfortable working with them as compared to satisfied clients. Satisfaction is a very hollow word for me.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
it's very, very
Exactly.
generalized. It's very, very personalized. What satisfies me might not satisfy anybody else.
You are
What's
right.
good to me is
All the benefits are just like that. They are very difficult to.
yeah.
They are very difficult
Yeah,
to measure.
so I always prefer having very quantitative spin on things. I
Exactly.
always say, give me a range, a spectrum as to is if it you have a 1 to 10 on a gauge, what is good, what is best, and
Mhm.
what is bad for you, or completely unacceptable. I always like to have those quotients.
Exactly.
So that's how I differentiate between
Mhm.
output and outcome.
Yep. Just relate outcome with the benefits, and relate output with the deliverables. That is the
Yeah.
easiest way of doing it. And as you
Yeah.
said, actually, when we relate something to the strategy, strategies are very vague and subjective in nature, and naturally, the benefits which
Yeah.
are feeding those strategies are also equally vague. Like, I said, raise the education level of this community, right? No, it is very
Yeah.
subjective how much you have to raise it. So, this is the benefit, but somebody has to define how much do I need to raise it. So, I said, okay, 5,000 students must be trained from this facility. So when I said 5,000, that puts a cap on that. So that is somehow given it a numerical tint.
Yeah.
So this remains the outcome. But output is very clear. When anything coming out of your project, your deliverable or whatever, we can easily measure it and all that. Now, subsidiary programs, as I defined just 2 slides back, sometimes referred to as sub-programs, and programs sponsored and conducted to pursue a subset of goals important to the primary project. Meaning, primary program has been subdivided into sub-programs, and those sub-programs are called subsidiary programs. And those subsidiary programs may have their own projects, and they are given a part of the strategy of the program to fulfill. So each sub-program will have its own strategy, and they have their own projects. So they will behave like small little programs, and they will be feeding the main program, and that's how the things will go on. So as an example, a program to develop a new electric car may sponsor other programs related to the development of new motor, battery, charging station technologies. So they could be sub-programs of the main program. Each of these other programs would be managed as described in this standard and also monitored and managed as a component of the sponsoring program. So the bigger program, the main program, is the sponsoring program, and the sub-programs are contributing towards that. Then we have other program-related activities, and these are work processes or activities that are being conducted to support a program. So program has its own team, and whatever they will be doing for the program manager is the program activity, but they are not directly tied to the subsidiary program. They are not part of the subsidiary program. They are not part of the projects uh, sponsored or conducted by a program, but they are directly under the program manager, and they have their own responsibilities to to process all the benefits, to keep a record of everything, and for that matter, you can have a program management office within the program, and these activities could be performed there as well. Examples of processes and activities sponsored by programs may include those related to training, planning, program level controls, reporting, accounting, and administration. So you see all of these jobs, because this program is going to be there for say 20 years. For 20 years, there has to be a lot of operational work within the program which has to happen. The program is going to be behaving just like a permanent organization, or for that matter, semi-permanent organization. So it has its own operations, and to run those operations, you have to have some staff and some work. Operational activities are maintenance functions that are directly related to a program component, may be considered as other program related activities, or what we have already described. When used in the context of program management, the term activities should be read as program activities. So rather than calling it a program related activities, let's call simply program activities. So these are the activities of the program. Program activities are activities conducted to support a program, and not those activities performed during the course of a program's component project. Project activities are project activities. Program activities are personal activities of the program. So what is the primary difference? Primary difference between projects and programs is based on the recognition within programs that the strategies for delivering benefits may need to be optimized adaptively as the outcomes of components are individually realized. So in so many words, it has given us the same benefit, same definition which we have been talking for so long. So there are benefits of the projects as well, but when we optimize them by putting them all together and fulfilling a greater strategy, that is what is the function of a program is. Projects also have benefits, but those benefits are to be realized later and by maybe someone else. Best mechanism for delivering a program's benefit may initially be ambiguous or uncertain. Just like you said, there is a subjectivity to the term outcome. Exactly, uh, the mechanism of running the program or to delivering the program benefit is also very vague. We are not really sure how it will evolve. but we move on with this, and we keep, by rolling wave planning, we keep improving our thinking and how it is going to deliver the benefit. Outcomes delivered. Outcomes delivered. It says, doesn't say output delivered. Outcomes means benefits. Outcomes delivered by a program's components contribute to the delivery of the program's intended benefits, and as necessary to refinement of the strategy of the program and its components. So if there are any outcomes coming from the projects or other components, those outcomes will add to synergize the program components and the program itself, program's intended benefits, and ultimately fulfillment of the program strategy. Primary value of managing an initiative as a program is based on the acknowledgement of the program manager's readiness to adopt strategies to optimize the delivery of benefits to an organization. So we have somebody who has taken up the responsibility of converting everything into benefits and presenting those benefits to the organization. This is the role of the program manager. As a consequence of a program's potential need to adapt to the outcomes and outputs of its components, its potential need to modify its strategy or plan, program components may be pursued in an iterative and non-sequential manner. This talks about evolution of the program. Rolling wave thing is going on, uncertainties are there, so the programs will adapt to the outcomes and the outputs, and the benefits will ultimately evolve out of it. Now coming over to the program life cycle, I'll show you a diagram in the next slide which illustrates the non-sequential nature of programs delivery phase. We just said non-sequential here. I'll show you why it is talking about non-sequential and how does it mean. In a program, the iterative pursuit of components is expected to produce a stream of outputs and outcomes that contribute to the organizational benefit. That is what is our main mission. So the projects may be in sequence. When one project has yielded something, and that might have gone into another project and then it has yielded something, but that is not necessary. You can have projects happening in parallel as well, and maybe the benefit yielded from one project could go into processing for benefits, and another project would be contributing and adding to that. Maybe a project's output is going to another project as an input, and then the further output of the second project is ultimately being converted into the benefit. So it could be in any way it appears. Program benefits may be realized incrementally throughout the duration of the program, or may be realized at or after the end of the program. Now, the two ways of delivering the benefits. One is, in some cases, the benefits will be continuous. Iteratively, incrementally, they will keep coming out. Some benefit has come out in the beginning, some benefit has come out after 2 weeks, and so on and so forth. So we may keep delivering the benefits as and when they appear. But in some programs, the benefit will only be realized at the end of the program, when all of the outputs and outcomes are consolidated. So both models do exist. Continuous delivery model is also there, and at the end delivery is also there. So whichever suits your program, that will be used. The program lifecycle, you can just look at it. This is the program lifecycle. You see, organizational governance. I hope you can see this diagram.
Yes.
Okay, you see, organizational governance is the big umbrella. Under that big umbrella, you have your own program governance. This program governance is how your program is going to be governed. So the program management plan will be created in accordance with the program governance. Okay. Does it mean, this was a question Frayal asked yesterday probably, uh, does it mean that program governance is specific to this program? No. Program governance is not specific to this program. Program governance is generic for all programs being run in this organization, but program governance is subordinate to organizational governance. So what is the big subset of policies? Those policies relating to program management are put into the program governance, and this is how any program in the organization will be governed. Now, this program of yours is under that program governance, and according to the instructions and guidelines or policies given in the program governance, you will be doing these steps. What are these steps? First of all, the program will have to be defined. When the program is to be defined, first step would be program formulation and then program planning. Then we move on to program delivery, where the various components of the program, like the projects or sub-programs or whatever, they are to be authorized, meaning the charters of the project and sub-programs will be issued here, and the planning will be done here. Then those components we will have oversight and integration of all those components. Oversight means how they are working. I said no micromanagement. So we will have some KPIs set up, and through those KPIs and the reports being submitted by the project managers, we will have an eye on how they are performing, and then whatever they are producing is to be integrated into the outputs and outcomes coming. They have to be integrated into final benefit. Benefit realization would be resulting from it. So when the output or outcome comes, that may tend amount to going back and revising the component authorization and planning, and then again coming back for component oversight and integration. Or if it is okay, then we can directly go to the last step. And from component oversight also, we go to the last step of component transitioning and closure. And transitioning and closure, you understand, we have discussed yesterday also. In transitioning and closure, what we are doing is we are whatever benefits I was supposed to commit. Say I was supposed to give training to 5,000 students. I have done that. The benefits, school is still there. More benefits will be yielded. So I will hand over this facility to the new setup, the operational setup, and tell them and brief them through a sustainment plan how they will be able to continue reaping these benefits. And that's where the program will be closed. While we are doing that, the outputs and outcomes, you see the benefits are being yielded. So these benefits are being consolidated and sustained. And while we are closing the program, those sustainment is being handed over. The program, the benefits have been consolidated and they are being handed over. So this is generally
Suhail, the benefit consolidation and sustainment that is coming under program closure.
Closure, yeah. But
Okay.
if you
And
look at
the going back or yeah.
it is going in parallel with program closure. Basically, you can see the middle portion. Let me. This is the program life cycle.
The program delivery.
This portion is the program life cycle. This is the benefit. Benefit will I'll discuss later. Benefit management is happening in parallel, right? So during the program life cycle, benefit management is also happening, and here the benefits are being consolidated. While we are closing the program, benefits are being handed over. But program cannot be closed until and unless the benefits have been properly handed over. So we have governance, we have the life cycle, we have the benefits. So main emphasis is on the program life cycle. This is the program life cycle.
Yeah, but basically we start realizing the benefits in program delivery. It's the consolidation and sustainment which happens in closure.
Exactly. You're right.
And the looping back, it can only happen from
Outputs.
the first two steps.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
You can't go back from
See,
program
there is
clear.
program formulation and there is program planning, right? So you can always go back from the first two components, which is the authorization and planning and oversight and integration, that you can go back
Yes. Once component has come into transition,
to.
that means that component is
Yeah.
approved. Now it is just to be handed over. So handed over and closure thing will be handled in program closure while the benefits are being consolidated and handed over.
Okay. So basically the transition and closure, once a project or whatever your activity or whatever component we are dealing with, when it gets into transition and closure, from there it just moves on to program closure phase, and there is no looping back to any of the
No,
oversight and integration or
exactly. It can't be
authorization and
because
planning.
the components are being delivered in this central program delivery. So every component
Yeah.
will be transitioned and closed. And this transition and closure is to the
Yeah.
program. Say we have got 10 years long program, and after 5 years, one component has delivered. So that will be retained by the program. That program will be remain processing that while other components keep delivering
Yeah.
and closing. And when everybody has delivered and closed, program closure will be activated. And in the meanwhile, there are two patterns of delivering the benefit. One is consistent delivery, that as the benefits are being delivered, they are being sent out, they are being handed over. That is also possible. And the other one is consolidate all the benefits, and only when all benefits have been consolidated, then only they are handed over. So both models could be used. Okay, then the example of this program life cycle. One example of a program that delivers benefits incrementally, as I was just saying, is an organization-wide process improvement program. So you are running a program of process improvement. Whatever processes are being improved, they are being delivered to the organization. So continuously throughout the life of the program, you keep delivering value. Such a program might be envisioned to pursue component projects and subsidiary programs. Component projects to standardize and consolidate specific processes, and subsidiary programs to ensure that the benefits of consolidation are fully realized. Each of these components may deliver incremental benefits as they are completed. The outcome of components might trigger the initiation of a new project. That is again a point, because in the life cycle you might have seen at this point, the output is going back to component authorization. That means that looking at that output or outcome, we may have realized a new project should be chartered for doing something extra. So a new component could be authorized from here. So we can even affect the program planning, going back to the program definition, we can even affect the program planning. So that is one of the options also. This is rolling wave planning kind of a thing, that you can keep changing your plan as on the go. However, the program would not be complete until all of the projects and subsidiary programs necessary for business improvement have delivered their intended program benefits. So all the projects and all the sub-programs will have to complete to, to close the program. The main program can only be closed when all its components have completed their job. So benefit, as you were saying, the definition is an outcome of actions, behaviors, product, or services that provide utility to the sponsoring organization as well as to the program's intended beneficiaries or stakeholders. So this is the exact definition of the benefit. Benefit is an outcome of actions, behaviors, products, or services. So actions, behaviors are in the project, and some program activities, and product and services coming from the projects, and that provide utility to the sponsoring organization as well as to the program's intended beneficiaries and stakeholders. So our organization as well as our customers, they can also benefit from that. Programs provide organizations with the ability to deliver benefits to the stakeholders, including beneficiaries or customers, while at the same time delivering benefits in form of business value to the sponsoring organization. This is how what is being delivered to the customer, what is being delivered to the sponsoring organization. Organization will have enhanced business value. Stakeholders will have the benefits directly utilizing them. Programs are a means of executing corporate strategies, achieving business or organizational goals and objectives. So program benefits may be realized, as I said, incrementally throughout the duration of the program, or may be realized all at once at the end of the program. So that depends from program to program. Some programs cannot deliver consistently. Some programs can deliver, as we have seen in the example earlier. Another example, a drug development program can be viewed as a program with unified benefit delivery, where the individual components of the program would not be expected to deliver benefits until the entire drug development program is successfully completed, the product is approved for sale, patients are treated with it, and the organization realizes benefits from its sale. So if the benefit, the target benefit was getting some profit out of it, then that profit will only come after all this process. So the delivery of the benefit is going to start very late, even at the end of the program. Another example, an organization-wide process improvement program with multiple projects within the program. Project 1 is a business modernization program, may include a project to standardize and consolidate financial management across multiple sites. Another project to improve personnel hiring and performance appraisal. And project 3 is a project to streamline logistical services. So there are three things you want to improve here. Project 1, 2, and 3, they are addressing all of these things. One is the financial management, other is the performance appraisal, and third is the logistical services. So they all come under the same program. Each project can be on a different schedule and deliver incremental benefits. Even a project can deliver incremental benefit. That was the example which I was saying, that there might be some projects which start delivering values while the project is happening. But there are some projects which can only start delivering value after the benefit realization will only start happening after the project has been completed. But the modernization effort is not complete until the program has completed all of the projects necessary for business improvement. By contrast, programs may deliver planned benefits all at once as a unified whole. So I think
What did you mean by contrast to what? The last slide.
there were two options. One was the consistent delivery. The upper portion shows the consistent incremental benefit. Contrast is all at once.
So, but the first one is for projects, not for a program.
No, it is, you see, when we say incremental benefits, the incremental benefits could happen in a program as a whole, or sometimes it can even happen right from within the project. That was the point I was making, that even if this project was not part of a program, this project would have started yielding some benefits while the project was happening. But the benefit realization would not be complete by the time project will be complete. So that benefit, the remaining benefit realization would become the responsibility of the program. And then program will keep those increments up. And that's how things can move on. So I think that's it. Yep.
Suhail, I don't get it. It's the contracts. What is one versus the other? Which is the first state and which is the second state?
Okay.
What are you comparing? A project and a program, or a program versus a program? A program which is delivering continued incremental benefits versus a program which is a unified whole?
Okay. First, we talked about our program only. We said, irrespective of the project, we said our program may yield incremental delivery or all at once. That was basic thing. Now we are saying
Okay.
that in some projects there might be incremental incremental benefits starts delivering right in the life of the project. And this thing I mentioned earlier as well, that there are certain projects which can start delivering benefits while the product is not yet
I
complete.
don't have any doubt about that. But is it a comparison between a project and a program,
No.
or a program which delivers incrementally continued over a spectrum,
Okay.
or a program which is a unified whole?
Okay.
So it's a program versus a program.
Program versus a program. But the
Okay.
first option which we say a program delivers incremental benefit, that is we
Yeah.
are further drilling it down into the project. Can this incremental delivery of benefits, could it start from the project? The answer is yes. It can even start
Yeah.
from within the project. That is the only difference.
Okay. So basically, what we are saying is some programs will deliver owing to the nature of the projects, which are incremental, and some will deliver because they're all shooting for the end game, like the drug development program.
Exactly.
Okay. So it's a program versus a program.
Exactly. So I think we should close down here. We can start tomorrow, or not tomorrow. The gap is going to be a big one this time. So, what is exact date when we are meeting again?
Pakistan, it will be the 11th morning, and for Julian, it will be the evening of 10th, which is, I
Right.
think, Monday.
Right. So, Julian, is it okay with you? Now, we don't have a confusion. 10th evening, same time. Is it okay with you?
I don't know if he's
Okay.
here.
I'll send an email. I'll send an email.
Yeah.
So
So
we are meeting
going
again.
forward,
Yeah.
Suhail,
Yes.
I confirmed with the doctor, so I will not be able to do the Friday evenings, which is Saturday morning for us. So coming next week, our schedule would be Julian wouldn't be doing the Friday evening session and Saturday evening sessions, which is Saturday,
Right.
Sunday will be off for us.
Right. And that date will be
That is, I think, 15th and 16th.
15th. Exactly. So I'll send out this email to Julian also and yourself.
So basically, from going forward, will be having 4 sessions a week. Like for us, it will be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. For
Okay.
him, it will be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So
Or
there'll be 4 sessions a week.
is it a permanent feature? Is going to be permanent after that?
at least for 2-3 weeks, because
Okay.
I've asked the doctor to exchange it with another patient, but so
Okay.
far they have dates fixed for patients on their own blood cycles.
Got it. Got it.
So for 3 weeks I'm stuck. If I have made a request if they can do it. So I hope they can do it.
That is fine. That is fine. Julian will not have any objection on that. He has already said that. I will amend the program and
And I think because we will need some time to start studying up on it. Also, I
Mhm.
wanted to ask you, Suhail, I'm
Mhm.
trying to brush up on my agile concept, because I realized that when I was doing my PMP, it
Mhm.
was 2 editions earlier. It's only recent that they have brought in the agile, and I think
Exactly.
they have introduced some new stuff as well. So I
Mhm.
don't know if in one of your videos week that we are off, maybe I can just brush up my concepts on agile and risk or something. Do you
Yeah,
have
yeah.
any agile videos in your thing, or have you done any agile trainings? Or I just wanted to come up to speed on that so
Mhm.
that I don't drag the session for my confusions.
Okay. What you can do is there is a training there, lying there on Scrum Master training that will educate you
Okay.
on that thing. That was conducted for Teradata a while ago. That was recorded and that is
Okay.
there. I currently, I just yesterday I completed one training, but that was not recorded.
Oh,
So you can
oh,
take advantage of that one, the previous one. And as far as risks are
okay.
concerned,
It's the Scrum Master training. Teradata is the company, right?
yeah. But you will search for my name on YouTube
Okay.
and go into the playlist,
Okay.
and you will find the Scrum training. There's only one Scrum training there. You can see that there are two, I think two or five videos. I think they are large videos of 5 hours,
Okay.
six
I will.
hours each.
Okay. I'll try to see how much. I'm just trying to brush up my concept so
Uh-huh.
that I'm not as confused. And
Okay.
for risk, what were you saying?
For risk, we just finished a training lately on risk management. That is also available. That is
Okay.
conducted in May. So
Okay.
you can find all of them. Otherwise, I can send you the links for these.
Okay. If you can, maybe today or tomorrow, just send me one link, and then I guess I'll be able to go over them. I just want to listen to them just to, so that, because this agile thing, the new sixth edition only came recently,
Yeah, yeah.
so I haven't gone through it.
Right, right.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. Take care.
Okay. Bye bye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Julian.